Not too long ago, I hit the 100,000 sub mark, which is really cool. Today, I looked in my mail and I actually got my fancy silver plaque. In the grand scheme of things, I haven't really been doing YouTube for that long, so this is really exciting. The plaque came in a little box with a note from YouTube congratulating the channel on getting 100,000 subs. And underneath a layer of protective foam, I caught the first glimpse of my silver play button. It's kind of cool if you have a big team behind your channel, you can get everyone their own little plaque, and I think that would just go to Tiny's head, so we're going to stick to just this one for now. I don't really have a good spot to stick this in the barn, so for now I'm going to take it home and put it in a safe place, and then maybe once we get our new property it'll get its own spot hanging on the wall. Come on, buddy. Let's go out. Come on, Zeke. Boy, come. Sorry. Come on. Boy, go out. The day I hit 100,000 subs, I asked you guys to send me some questions. I've been trying to do this video for quite a while and I'm just a little bit behind on chores. So today while I'm going through my evening feeding and cleaning, I am going to answer a bunch of those questions. It looks like Laura wants to know about my first horse, and I do still have Frisco, who was the first horse that I trained and kind of bought with my own money. I did have horses before him, but he is the first one that I think of as 100% mine. Lisa wanted to know about when I took Frisco Bill to college with me. I was really lucky I got to go to school for training horses. I went to the University of Findlay in Ohio. Buddy. Their program is really cool. They allow you to bring a horse with you that you can use in the program your first year, and I did bring Frisco Bill. I double majored in equestrian science and biochemistry, and I do have a bachelor's degree from there. I do have a video on kind of my horsemanship journey that I will link in the description if anybody missed that one. When I went off to college, I did plan on becoming a veterinarian, but then I kind of got distracted with riding horses. I had never really thought about being a professional horse trainer before, but after being around so many people that had the same passion that I did, it seemed like it was a goal that was in reach for me. I think if I hadn't continued training horses, I would be working in some kind of lab somewhere. I really do like the science-y part of horse things. I did get a lot of questions about Scarlett. She is my 2-year-old reservation horse. She is a huge part of the reason why I started this channel. She was probably the toughest horse that I've ever had to halter break. A fun little fact about Scarlett that I haven't talked about much on the channel is when I purchased her, I had initially gotten her for a friend. She was so sick and so wild, I felt bad about sending them her, so I decided to keep her and make sure that she recovered. Kelly asked a really great question about how I decide which horses to keep and which to send on to new homes. And a horse like Scarlett will be pretty tricky to rehome, especially with the level of training that she has now. In addition to their training, I take into consideration their temperament, any maintenance they may have if it's an older horse. Ideally, I try to find these horses homes that keep them long term so they don't end up in the same situation they were when I found them. Although Scarlett's training is coming along, she has taken me a lot longer than it would a regular domestic horse. She has a very low fear threshold still and is pretty reactive, so that'll make getting her into a really good home tricky. Lately, Frisco Bill and her have been spending some quality time together with just the fence in between them. Frisco kind of gets to do whatever he wants, so he likes to get out and graze this time of year. When I first got Scarlett, she was a little bit of a hellion, and Frisco did most of the hard work dociling her down within the first 60 days I had her. Even though she is a little bit bigger than he is now, I think his initial training really did stick, and she's pretty sensible now when they're out in close quarters. Another horse that I got a lot of questions about was Primrose. And I bought Prim when she was a 2-year-old. I had planned to sell her rather quickly because she is registered and she's generally a very calm horse. I really like to wait until my horses are 4 to start them under saddle, so I had a year to sell her and I just never really found the right home for her. She's gone through all of her saddle prep. She is ready for me to just basically get on and start riding. I just haven't found the time to do that yet. Part of the reason Primrose has not gone anywhere is because Frisco Bill is extremely attached to her. Lately, she's been bonding with Ziggy a little bit more, and quite frankly, I think Frisco has had enough of her.
Come on, girl.
This last year, I've spent more time than I had planned on looking for properties and editing videos for YouTube, and I just haven't really gotten around to riding her. I like to have a lot of time to start a young horse under saddle so I can be consistent, and I just haven't found the time to do that with Prim quite yet. From this angle, you can see how much bigger Scarlett is than Frisco right now. In case you needed a little refresher of how big Scarlett was when I got her, this is her about 30 days after I bought her from the sale. Over the years, Frisco has been one of the best disciplinarians I've ever had. He really likes teaching the young horses manners. He ponies all of the horses when I start them under saddle, but unfortunately with him being 29 years old this year, he is starting to slow down.
Hey, boy.
When I was starting Goose under saddle, he did get in a little bit of a wreck. Goose is just so much bigger than him that he actually pulled him off his feet when we were ponying one day.
Frisco Bill.
Although Frisco is in really good shape for a 29-year-old, I do want him to have some bit of retirement. I don't really ride Frisco very much anymore, and I don't use him to start colts, so he pretty much just sits to hang out and eat. I've been slowly chipping away at this round pen, trying to get the footing a little bit better. I still haven't saddled up Scarlett for the year, and I would love to get that done before it starts snowing. Believe it or not, in a couple of days we are supposed to get our first big kind of snowstorm of the year. Besides not having my giant hay stack yet, I am pretty much ready for the winter. Most of the long-term horses I have do have a video on my channel about them. 2 that I haven't gotten around to doing yet are Big Gus and Whiplash. Big Gus's story isn't that exciting, but Whiplash's is a little bit crazy, and I do have it in the works, and hopefully it'll be out sometime soon. With winter coming, all of these boys have been sharing the run-in, which is one of the big reasons why I work so hard to get the horses into the right dry lots before the snow comes. Thankfully, Ziggy is loving his own personal stall, so I don't have to worry about the other horses kicking him out of the run-in shed anymore. I do get a lot of questions about what I film all of the footage for this channel on. Up until about a week ago, it was just a regular iPhone 12 mini, so an older iPhone. Unfortunately, while I was on my house hunting trip, it did stop working, so I had to invest in a new phone. Basically, all of the videos after this one are going to be filmed on the new iPhone 16. I'm still getting used to it. Like right now, the picture is blurry and I have no idea why. It's probably going to take me a few videos to get the kinks worked out, so please bear with me while I'm figuring out all of the fancy new features this phone has. Phoebe had a really great question about whether the 100,000 subs is going to make a difference in my channel financially. While the number of subscribers doesn't really contribute to how much money I make, the amount of views I do get does have a pretty significant impact in how much money they send me every month. I'm sure in the big algorithm that YouTube has, it makes some kind of difference when they push the videos out. But the majority of my time is spent on trying to make better content for you guys that you'll find interesting and actually want to watch all the way through. Sometimes it's really hard to balance making content and shooting and taking care of the horses while I'm trying to do fun things. There's been a lot of times this summer where I wanted to work the horses, but I thought, oh, this is really important. I would like to put this on my channel, but I just don't have time to film it. That's something I am always working on, and hopefully it will get better as time goes on. There are a lot of horsey channels on YouTube, and a lot of them are very unrealistic about the amount of work that goes into actually having your own horses. While riding is a lot more fun, all of these chores do need to get done in order for the horses to stay happy and healthy. I do get asked quite a bit about why I don't have someone working for me or why my husband doesn't help me with the chores. The main reason is that I do rent this place and I'm technically not supposed to have other people out here around the horses just because of the liability that involves. While my husband does support all of my endeavors with the horses, he is not a horsey person, and making him come out here and shovel poop for hours at a time would definitely lead to some conversations about divorce. Since I really don't mind doing chores and I get a lot of my best thinking done while I'm doing them, I will continue to do them on my own until we get our new place. Mickey had a great question about if I could train the horses to poop in one spot. Most of the horses in the barn figure out how to poop in one specific location, so cleaning out their stalls and the runs is a little bit easier. Frisco Bale is a little bit of a slob. He uses his dry lot and he poops in his stall quite a bit. He's gotten a lot better over the years, but compared to the other horses, he is a pretty big piglet in his stall. Prim, on the other hand, likes to go in one nice pile in her run. She doesn't poop in her stall, so cleaning it is pretty easy. She is one that if I have to leave her run for a few days, it's not really a big deal because the bugs kind of all go in one spot, and then I can just come out here and scoop up a bigger pile of poop when I have time. With Frisco and Nigel's water all cleaned out and refilled, I do have a few more loads to take out before Prim's run is completely clean. I've been letting Frisco go out of his run when I clean it every day, and I think it's really helping Prim kind of become a little bit less attached to him. Ziggy is also always over here keeping her company. This is what Prim's poop pile looks like. It is really nice and tidy. I wish that all of my horses were as tidy as Prim. I got a really good question from Rosie about what kind of disciplines I would like to learn more about. And since I got Ziggy, I am feeling a little bit more interested in endurance. It's something that I had never really thought about before. The kind of horses that I typically get do not excel at endurance, so it never really crossed my mind. Prim trotted around for maybe 5 minutes and she is covered in sweat already, so obviously she would not make a very good endurance horse. Something else that I would really like to try that is pretty popular in Montana is skijoring. With the winter time slowly approaching, I think that Prim would actually really be good at it. She has the speed and they don't really have to have a lot of stamina. Of course, for that to actually happen, I will have to start her under saddle fairly quickly here. Since Prim has never really had any abuse or hard training, once I finally have the time to start her, it should be moving along pretty quickly. Hopefully before the snow comes, I will get the panels put up around the smaller dry lot and I can start turning Frisco, Bale, and Scarlett out there. It would be nice if they could spend the winter outside. Frisco has been having some trouble. He's been getting stocked up a little bit lately just because he's older, so the increase in movement would really help him. I was almost done cleaning out all of the runs when I heard Stewie making a little bit of a ruckus out by the water tank.
Hey, Whip.
Stewie does this little trick where he sticks his feet in the water and then he pulls it out from under the fence and tips it over until these horses have no water. It has been really warm out lately, so these guys have been drinking a lot more water than usual.
Stewie.
I have a sneaking suspicion that Stewie maybe poked a hole in the bottom of the tank with his hooves, so I'm gonna fill this up after I scrub it and see if it holds. I got a lot of real estate questions from you guys about why it's so expensive in Montana, and that really depends on the area. Eastern Montana is a lot cheaper than where I'm at. If you have any view of the mountain, the real estate is going to be more expensive. With a lot of jobs now being done remotely, this area has really seen a boom. Where I currently live, there are quite a few amenities, so even if the place that I'm currently renting did come up for sale, it would be way too expensive for us to buy at this point. We are really trying to narrow down our hunt for real estate, and we've basically been looking at every state west of the Rockies. We would really like a place that is at least 20 acres, that is relatively close to the mountains for skiing and mountain biking, and then also getting pasture for the horses is a little bit tricky. There really is no reason for us to move other than we would really like our own place. Of course, things can happen unexpectedly, but my landlord assures me that they have no plans of selling this property anytime soon. It's one of those things that I could worry about, but it really doesn't do me any good to. So for now, I'm just going to keep on taking care of the horses here. We will continue our property search and eventually the right place is going to come along. Another topic that I got a ton of questions on was about how I feed my horses and how I figure out what they need to be getting. While I did get a degree in equestrian studies and did take a bunch of nutrition classes, what I use now is a program called Feed Excel. It is extremely cool. It lets you see all the different feeds and it basically balances them for you once you put your hay test in. I am going to be doing a video on kind of how I do my do-it-yourself senior feed for Frisco, Bill, and Nigel. So keep your eyeballs peeled for that because I will be giving an in-depth look into what I do to make sure these old boys are getting what they need. Another thing I got a lot of questions about was where I learned to trim my horse's feet. I have never worked professionally as a farrier. It's something that I just don't have any interest in doing, but I do maintain my own herd, and I'm always doing continuing education to make sure I'm staying up to date with the latest and greatest. I do save a lot of money by doing my own farrier care, but it does put a lot of stress on my back. All of the physical labor that needs to get done around horses does add to a lot of back problems. On top of the regular wear and tear that equestrians put their body through, I did have a pretty significant full rotational fall a couple of years ago that did really mess up my back. So that is the reason that I do have trouble from time to time. I do have a lot of arthritis and my discs are very flat. So that is something that I am constantly thinking about in the back of my mind as I go through my chores every day.
Hi, little buddy.
A lot of you guys in Nigel's fan club sent me some questions, and I got a lot revolving around his new pills that he needs to take. Nigel is getting his medication once a day, and I just put it in his regular mash and he eats it right up. Nigel and Frisco Bill do get soaked food every morning and night, and it looks like I maybe forgot to turn off the water in one of the boys' dry lots. If you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I like to keep my horses outside as much as possible. The way this property is set up, I do have some dry lots that the horses stay in, and then when they're turned out into the pasture, they all have access to the dry lot still, which does have the shelter in it. So when it does get really nasty out in the winter, the horses always have a shelter that they can go into if they want. All of the horses do grow extraordinarily thick winter coats, and most of them will just stand outside in the weather. Typically, I don't see them in their sheds unless it's really windy or it's raining. But rest assured, everybody has access to a shelter. Probably the worst one to get inside is Nigel. He is a little bit of a pain about it, but with him being so old, even though he does have a really thick coat, I do like to have him inside out of the elements when it gets really nasty. Scarlett is another one that does like to be out in the elements as opposed to being in a stall in the barn. This winter, she will get set up with a stall that has a run so she can be either outside or inside. She still is not super respectful of anything other than a very solid fence, so I'm just going to play it by ear and see what she tolerates over the next couple of months. With her acting less and less like a wild horse, it does open up a spot in the round pen for a completely feral auction horse. The unhandled ones are my absolute favorite, so that is kind of exciting. I feel pretty content with the number of horses that I have now, so I'm not going to go run out and buy another horse right away. But we are getting to the time of year where horses like Scarlett are going to start showing up at the auction, so it's nice to be prepared. There's been a pretty big learning curve to this whole YouTube thing. I had a lot of plans for videos that I just didn't get time to make this summer. The amount of time that I had to train on the horses was a little bit less as well. I love making content for you guys, and I'm going to try in the future to set aside more time for me to enjoy the horses. There are a few series that I have in mind, but they do require me getting some more horses in because I just really can't find the time to work the horses that I have now. I don't feel right getting another horse that needs a lot of training at this point. The last couple of years, I've done a lot of really tricky, intense rehabs that some of them turned out great and others did not turn out how I had hoped. So those are still kind of weighing heavy on my mind. When I have room for another project horse, I just kind of wait and see what comes my way. I really don't try and plan it.
Come on.
You guys sent in so many great questions. It was hard to pick just a few, but I did get a ton about Tiny. Tiny does belong to me. She will be coming with us when we move.
Oh,
She also
Tiny.
does stay out in the
Come
barn
here, come
24/7, but she does have access to my tack room through a little cat
Tiny.
door.
Tiny.
It is insulated, and I
Gotcha.
do have a heater that I
I see
turn
you.
on in the winter for her. She is always getting little scrapes and bumps from living outside and going on adventures, and it looks like today she does have a little bit of a spot where the hair is rubbed off.
Hold on.
Just so it doesn't get infected, I am going to
There
put
you
some
go.
chlorhexidine on it so
Come
it
here.
stays nice and clean.
I'll get ya.
Taking care of Tiny and all of the horses and Huckleberry does take up a big chunk of my time. I really appreciate all you guys subscribing and sticking with me as I figure out this whole YouTube thing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.